The heartland of America, a place of rolling plains and wholesome values where communities are tight-knit and everyone knows their neighbor, became the unlikely setting for a scandal so shocking, so depraved, it would leave an indelible mark on the nation's conscience. This scandal would shake the very foundations of society, causing ripples of distress and upheaval that would be felt far and wide. This wasn't just a tale of financial fraud, though it began amidst the ledgers and balance sheets of a seemingly unassuming credit union. It was a story that would unravel layers of deceit and betrayal. This was a story of power, corruption, and the unspeakable abuse of innocent children. A narrative so dark it would haunt the memories of those who lived through it, a story that would forever stain the city of Omaha, Nebraska, casting a long shadow over its history, and expose the dark underbelly of the American dream, revealing the cracks in the facade of prosperity and integrity. Our story starts in the early 1980s in the heart of Reagan's America, a time of economic optimism and patriotic fervor. The national mood was optimistic, but a storm was brewing in Omaha, a storm that would soon engulf the entire community. At its epicenter was the Franklin Community Federal Credit Union, an institution seemingly dedicated to serving the city's African-American community, providing financial services and support. But behind its respectable facade, a viper was coiled, ready to strike, hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface. His name was Lawrence E. King, Jr., a man who would become synonymous with one of the most unsettling scandals in American history, a figure whose actions would leave a lasting scar on the community. Lawrence King was a man of contradictions, a figure who seemed to embody both charm and deceit. He was a charismatic gospel singer, captivating audiences with his powerful voice and magnetic stage presence, a darling of the Republican Party, often seen at their most prestigious events, and a man who rubbed shoulders with the nation's elite, mingling with influential politicians and business leaders. He was a fixture at political fundraisers, always present at the most important gatherings, his voice booming out at both the 1984 and 1988 Republican National Conventions, making him a recognizable figure. He was, by all appearances, a pillar of the community, someone who seemed to genuinely care about the people around him. Yet, beneath this carefully constructed veneer of respectability, lurked a predator of the worst kind, hiding his true nature. King's reign as the head of the Franklin Credit Union was marked by a shocking degree of financial impropriety, a betrayal of trust. Millions of dollars vanished into thin air, disappearing without a trace, siphoned away from the very people the institution was supposed to help, leaving many in financial ruin. The authorities took notice, and in 1988 the walls began to close in on King's empire of deceit, as investigations intensified. The FBI and IRS raided the credit union, uncovering a staggering amount of evidence, uncovering a staggering $40 million in missing funds, a sum that shocked the nation. This was no ordinary case of embezzlement. The scale of the fraud was immense, leaving a lasting impact on the community. As investigators dug deeper into the financial morass of the Franklin Credit Union, they stumbled upon something far more sinister than missing money. Whispers began to circulate, hushed allegations of horrific abuse. Children, it was said, were being trafficked through the credit union, their innocence offered up to satisfy the depraved appetites of powerful men. Among the victims were children from Boys Town, a nationally renowned orphanage in Omaha, a place that should have been a sanctuary, not a hunting ground. Two names would emerge from the shadows, two voices brave enough to speak truth to power, Paul Bonacci and Alicia Owen. Their stories were harrowing, chilling accounts of abuse at the hands of King and his associates. They spoke of being flown across state lines to attend lavish parties, gatherings where the rich and powerful indulged their darkest desires. Their allegations implicated not just King but a cabal of high-profile individuals, men whose names commanded respect and instilled fear. The allegations surrounding Boys Town cast a long shadow over the Franklin scandal. Founded in 1917 as a haven for troubled boys, Boys Town had evolved into a sprawling campus, home to hundreds of children. It was a symbol of hope, its image carefully cultivated over decades. Yet if the whispers were true, this beacon of light had become a breeding ground for something truly monstrous. Bonacci and Owen claimed that children from Boys Town were specifically targeted by King and his associates. They alleged that vulnerable children, often from troubled backgrounds, were lured away from the supposed safety of the orphanage and thrust into a world of unimaginable cruelty. The accusation sent shockwaves through Omaha and beyond, tarnishing the once impeccable reputation of Boys Town. Section 5. A Web of Influence. The allegations made by Bonacci and Owen extended far beyond the confines of Omaha. They claimed that King's network of abuse stretched all the way to Washington, D.C., ensnaring politicians, businessmen, and even law enforcement officials. Names were whispered in hushed tones, prominent figures whose involvement, if proven, threatened to unravel the very fabric of American society. The accusations painted a picture of a sophisticated operation, one designed to procure and exploit children for the pleasure of the powerful. Victims spoke of being flown across state lines, their movements shrouded in secrecy, their voices silenced by fear and intimidation. The scandal threatened to implicate individuals at the highest levels of government, individuals whose power seemed insurmountable. Section 6. Silencing the Lambs. As the allegations against King and his powerful associates grew more disturbing, a concerted effort to silence the victims and discredit their stories went into overdrive. The mainstream media, typically so eager to pounce on a salacious story, seemed strangely reluctant to dig too deep into the Franklin scandal. Those who dared to investigate, who sought to give voice to the voiceless, found themselves facing threats and intimidation. The legal system, meant to protect the innocent, was instead wielded as a weapon against those brave enough to come forward. Paul Bonacci and Alicia Owen were both charged with perjury, their claims dismissed as fabrications. Owen was sentenced to 9 to 15 years in prison, an unusually harsh sentence for a perjury conviction, a clear indication that the powers that be were determined to make an example of her. The message was clear: speak out against the powerful, and you will be crushed. Section 7. The Death of the Truth Seeker. The most chilling chapter in the Franklin saga is undoubtedly the tragic fate of Gary Caradori, a private investigator hired by the Nebraska legislature to look into the allegations of child abuse. Caradori was a man on a mission, determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. He amassed a wealth of evidence, photographs, and documents that he believed would blow the lid off the scandal. However, fate, or perhaps something more sinister, intervened. In July 1990, Caradori's small plane carrying him and his 8-year-old son crashed in unsettling circumstances. The plane seemingly disintegrated mid-air, scattering debris over a wide area. Many believe that Caradori's plane was sabotaged, that he was silenced to prevent him from revealing what he had uncovered. His death, shrouded in mystery and suspicion, served as a chilling warning to anyone who dared to challenge the established order. Section 8. A Conspiracy of Silence. Despite the mountain of evidence, the numerous eyewitness accounts, and the tragic deaths of those who sought to expose the truth, the Franklin scandal remains shrouded in a fog of misinformation and denial. The mainstream media, after their initial dismissive coverage, seemed content to let the story fade away. The official narrative that the entire affair was nothing more than a carefully crafted hoax was accepted by many, despite the glaring inconsistencies and unanswered questions. Those who refuse to let the story die, who continue to seek justice for the victims, are often labeled as conspiracy theorists, their claims dismissed as the ravings of the lunatic fringe. The Franklin scandal is a stark reminder of the power of those in high places to control the narrative, to silence dissent, and to bury the truth beneath layers of bureaucracy and obfuscation. It is a story that should make every American question who truly holds the power in their society. Section 9. Justice denied, questions remain. The Franklin scandal, despite its shocking allegations and the devastating impact it had on the lives of so many, ultimately resulted in no high-profile convictions. The public was left in disbelief, questioning how such a grave miscarriage of justice could occur in a system designed to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. Lawrence King served time for embezzlement but was never held accountable for the horrific abuse he allegedly orchestrated. His limited punishment seemed a mere slap on the wrist compared to the gravity of the accusations against him. The powerful individuals implicated in the scandal, those who used their wealth and influence to prey on the vulnerable, escaped justice. Their connections and resources allowed them to evade the consequences that should have been inevitable. The survivors, their lives shattered, their cries for justice ignored, were left to pick up the pieces. They faced a long and arduous journey of healing, often without the support or recognition they deserved. The Franklin scandal is a stain on the conscience of America, a stark reminder that justice is not always served, that the powerful often escape accountability. It serves as a chilling example of how the system can fail those it is meant to protect. It is a story that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of power, the prevalence of corruption, and the lengths to which some will go to protect their own interests. The scandal exposed the dark underbelly of society, where greed and power overshadow justice and morality. The questions linger: how high up did the conspiracy go? Were there more individuals involved who have yet to be named or held accountable? How many innocent lives were destroyed? The true extent of the damage remains unknown, with countless victims suffering in silence. And will the truth, the whole truth, ever be known? The pursuit of justice continues, but the answers remain elusive, shrouded in mystery and silence.